You need to lose weight before I'll marry you, Anna.
She needs to lose weight before I'll marry her. The groom sneered. The rancher said, she's exactly what I want. Don't eat in front of them. Her mother's hands were shaking as she pinned Anna's collar tighter. She tugged at the waist of the dress, pulling fabric that wouldn't give. The seam had been let out twice already. There was nowhere left to hide. Stand straight, her mother whispered. Laugh softly. If they offer you food, say you've already eaten. Mama, they're coming for tea. They're coming to decide if you're worth their son. Her mother stepped back and looked at her, really looked, and Anna saw it. That flicker behind her eyes. Not anger. Worse. Apology. Outside, a carriage rolled to a stop. Expensive. Black lacquer that caught the afternoon sun and threw it back like a challenge. Her father appeared in the doorway, his face gray and tight. They're here. The Brennan family entered like winter wind. Edwin came in last, tall, clean-shaven, looking like he'd been ironed along with his shirt. He glanced at Anna once. Quick. The way you glance at a painting you've already decided you don't like. His mother was worse. She scanned the small ranch house parlor the way a woman does when she's calculating what everything costs. Please. Anna's mother gestured toward the table. Sit. I've prepared refreshments. On the good plates, the ones they never used, Anna's pastries were arranged like an offering. Honey cake, buttermilk biscuits, spiced peach preserves, all made with her own hands before sunrise. Mrs. Brennan took one bite of the honey cake. Her expression shifted. These are exceptional. For one breath, something lifted in Anna's chest. Maybe if they could taste what my hands can do, maybe that would be enough. Anna made everything, her mother said, her voice a note too bright. She runs the bakery in town. She's very skilled. Edwin took a tart. He ate it without looking at Anna. Your daughter is talented, Mrs. Brennan said. The word hung there. Talented. Not beautiful. Not suitable. Talented. Would you like to meet her properly? Her father's voice cracked at the edges. Mrs. Brennan set down her napkin. Of course. Walk to the window, dear. Anna walked. 14 steps. She could feel every eye tracking her body. Her hips. Her waist. The places the dress pulled across her middle. She was being brought forward like livestock to auction, and everyone in the room was pretending otherwise. Now turn around. She turned. Edwin was looking at the wall behind her. Pick up that napkin, would you? Mrs. Brennan pointed to the floor near Anna's feet. Anna bent. Retrieved it. So, she moves well, Mrs. Brennan said to Anna's mother. As if Anna couldn't hear. Well, Edwin? What do you think? The room held its breath. Edwin looked at Anna for the first time. His gaze started at her face and traveled down. Slowly. Taking inventory of every inch she wished she could erase. She'd need to lose weight first. The words dropped like stones into still water. Anna's mother made a sound. Broken. She began explaining, her voice high and desperate, offering up Anna's body like it was a recipe gone wrong. The flour, the butter, she's always tasting, she doesn't understand the consequences. She will lose weight. Her father cut her off. His voice had that tight, cornered sound he used when the bank threatened to take the ranch. 6 months. You have my word. I'll supervise her meals personally. And I'll increase the dowry. Whatever it takes. Mrs. Brennan considered this. 6 months. If she's suitable, we'll proceed. Suitable. As if Anna were a dress that needed altering. After they left, the silence in the house was suffocating. The half-eaten honey cake sat on the good plates, surrounded by a silence that had just decided Anna wasn't enough. Her father turned to her. The desperate politeness was stripped away, replaced by something cold. I just spent the last of our savings on that dowry increase. He stepped closer. Your sisters can't marry until you do. No other family will take you. Not like this. He looked at her the way Edwin had. At her body. Like it was a debt she owed him. You'll follow every instruction the doctor gives, he barked. This is our only chance. Our chance. Anna's voice shook. Or mine. Don't act like the victim, he snapped. No one else is going to want you. He didn't need to say more. That night, Anna sat alone in her room and looked at her hands. The same hands that had made the cake Edwin ate without looking at her. She pulled out a piece of paper and wrote down everything she'd eaten that day. Then she crossed most of it out. The list of what she was allowed to want was getting shorter. The doctor's office smelled like carbolic acid and old leather. Dr. Morrison looked at Anna over his spectacles like she was a problem to be solved. I'm prescribing a vinegar tonic, he said, scribbling on a pad. 2 tablespoons in water before each meal. It'll discourage appetite. And you'll follow the Banting method. No bread. No sugar. Meat and vegetables only. For how long? Anna asked. Until March. For months. Her father took the prescription without a word of thanks. The town of Redemption Creek made sure she knew they were watching. At the general store, Mrs. Patterson pressed a small tin into Anna's hand. Arsenic wafers. Half a wafer before bed. It took the color right out of my sister's appetite before her wedding. She looked like a different woman. Anna stared at the tin. Arsenic? Very mild. Very safe. Everywhere she went, every shop, every street corner, people looked at her body first and her face second. They tracked her progress like she was a prize sow being readied for the county fair. By January, her hands started trembling when she kneaded dough. She got dizzy reaching for the high shelf. But her father was relentless, weighing her every 2 weeks on a brass scale while he stood in the corner with his arms crossed. She's only lost 4 pounds, he'd bark. We don't have time. Desperate, Anna followed the town's cruelest advice. Someone had told her that walking in the heat made you sweat the weight away. That afternoon's sun could burn it off faster. She closed the shop early. Walked out of town toward open land. Started moving faster, wearing 2 petticoats because she was told the layers would burn the fat faster. The sun was white and merciless. She walked faster, until she was almost running. Her heart hammered. Her vision blurred. But she didn't stop. I have to be smaller. I have to be worth something. She didn't notice she'd crossed onto someone else's property until she collapsed. The ground came up fast. Her hands hit dirt. She couldn't breathe. Couldn't see. Couldn't. Ma'am? Boots appeared in her line of vision. Then a man crouched down. He had a canteen in his hand. Can you hear me? She nodded. Drink. He opened the canteen and held it to her lips. The water was cold. She drank like she was dying. What were you running from? Anna looked up at him. He had dark eyes and a face weathered by sun and work. He wasn't looking at her body. He was looking at her face. Myself, she whispered. Something shifted in his expression. That's a fight you can't win. I have to try. He helped her sit up. Why? Because I take up too much space. His jaw tightened. Who told you that? She didn't answer. I'm James Dalton. This is my ranch. Anna Fletcher. I'm sorry for trespassing. You're not trespassing. You're hurt. He stood and offered his hand. Can you stand? She could. Barely. You run the bakery in town, he said. Yes. I know, he said, looking not at her body, but at her hands. Best bread in the territory. Something cracked open in her chest. Not breaking. Just opening. Thank you. Why were you running in this heat? She couldn't explain. Couldn't say that she was trying to sweat herself into someone else. Someone smaller. Someone acceptable. I should go, she said. I deliver milk to some of the shops in town. If you need a supplier, I'll think about it. He watched her walk away. She could feel his eyes on her back. 3 weeks later, he started delivering milk to her bakery. They didn't talk much. But he was steady. Reliable. He never asked why her hands shook when she counted coins. Never commented when she didn't eat the day-old rolls she used to give herself at the end of each shift. But he noticed the shadows deepening under her eyes. He'd leave extra cream or a jar of honey on the counter without a word. February arrived. Then March. The wedding was set for the 15th. Anna invited James without knowing why. Maybe because he was the only person who'd looked at her like she was human. "I'll be there," he said. The day came too fast. The wedding day arrived in March with a pale light that made everything look fragile. Anna stood at the altar in a dress that had been taken in 3 times. It barely closed. She stood there and waited. Edwin arrived late. He walked down the aisle, stopped 3 feet away, and gave her that same quick flick of the eyes. The tightening of the mouth. "She hasn't lost enough," Edwin said. The church went silent. "I can't present this woman to my associates." 6 months of starvation. 6 months of arsenic wafers and collapsing in the dirt. And it wasn't enough. "What are you doing?" A voice cut through the silence. James Dalton stood up from the 3rd pew. He walked forward, his boots echoing on the wood. "You're standing in a church full of witnesses. If you're going to humiliate her, at least have the spine to say why." "This is private," Edwin began. "Nothing about this is private. She's not what I agreed to. My friends would mock me. I won't be seen with someone so socially unacceptable. Your friends are the embarrassment. Who the hell are you? Someone who's watching you prove you're not worth her time." Edwin's hands clenched. But he didn't argue. He just turned and walked out. His family followed like a retreating frost. The church erupted, but the loudest sound was Anna's father. He grabbed her arm, his face a deep, furious red. "You've ruined us. I spent everything on this. I'm in debt because of you." He pointed a finger at her chest. "You're still nothing but a burden." He shoved past her. Her mother followed, crying. Her sisters wouldn't meet her eyes. The church emptied until the candles burned for a ceremony that would never happen. Anna sat on the altar steps, alone. Footsteps. James hadn't left. He walked the length of the aisle and sat down on the step beside her. Not across from her. Beside her. "Where do you want me to take you?" he asked finally. "Nowhere. My family said I'm a burden." "That's what they said," James replied quietly. "I'm asking where you want to go." She looked at the dead flowers and the dress she had starved herself into. "I don't have anywhere." "Then come with me. Stay until you figure out what comes next." She looked at the man who had seen her at her worst and didn't look away. He drove her to his ranch under a sky the color of a bruise. When they arrived, he showed her the room. "Locks on the inside," he said. "I'll be in the barn if you need anything." He closed the door. Anna sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the mountains turning black. She had no husband, no family, and no plan. But for the first time in 6 months, nobody was measuring her. James's ranch was quiet in a way that made Anna's chest ache. No voices telling her what to eat. No eyes measuring her against a brass scale. Just the sound of wind through the grass. That first night, she couldn't eat. James left a plate outside her door, bread, cheese, a sliced pear. She heard him set it down, heard his boots walk away, but she stayed inside. She stood at the small mirror and scrubbed the makeup from her face. She scrubbed hard, like she was trying to remove the skin underneath. The rouge her mother had painted on to make her look thinner came off in streaks. She looked at herself, hollowed out, neither thin enough to be suitable nor healthy enough to be whole. She found scissors in the kitchen. Standing in front of the glass, she gathered her curled hair and cut. The dark pieces fell around her feet like shed skin. She looked at the woman in the glass, short hair, scrubbed face. She looked like someone who had stopped pretending. The next morning, she was in the kitchen before dawn. She couldn't sleep, and stillness terrified her. Stillness meant thinking, and hearing Edwin's voice at the altar, her father's voice in the church, every woman in town measuring her waist with their eyes. So she cleaned. Scrubbed the kitchen floor on her hands and knees. Reorganized the pantry. Found flour and lard and baked a loaf of bread from muscle memory, her hands moving before her mind could catch up. When James found her, she was sweeping up the remnants. He stopped in the doorway, taking in the clean kitchen and her new silhouette. "You're beautiful, Anna." She almost dropped the broom. It wasn't a polite compliment. He said it like he was stating the weather. She didn't believe him. "I'll pay for my stay," she said, her voice tight. "I won't be charity. I'm not a burden." James poured coffee and sat down. "You're not in my ledger, Anna. I don't keep accounts on people. You're not a transaction." The words settled over her like a blanket she didn't know she needed. But stillness terrified her. It meant hearing the town's whispers. So she worked anyway. She rose before dawn, cleaned things that were already clean, and baked bread he didn't ask for. She couldn't stop moving. If she stopped, the silence would fill with the voices she was running from. On the 6th night, a plains storm hit. It turned the sky green and dropped the temperature 20 degrees in minutes. The horses, Anna cried as the wind shook the house. "I'll handle it," James shouted, pulling on his coat. "You'll need help." They ran out into the wall of rain. Mud sucked at their boots as they wrestled the fence boards into place. Together, they drove the bolting horses back. Anna climbed the side of the barn to hold down a flapping piece of tin sheeting while James hammered. When it was done, he reached up to help her down. His hands gripped her waist, firm, steady, and lifted her like she weighed nothing. He set her on the ground, but his hands stayed for a second longer than necessary. She felt it everywhere. Their faces were inches apart, rain streaming down both of them. Lightning flashed. For one bright second, they were just two people standing too close in the rain. A voice called from the road. "Dalton? That you?" One of James's neighbors. Riding past on his way home from town. The man's eyes went from James to Anna. Took in the mud. The rain. The way they stood close enough to share breath. "Ma'am," the man said. But his voice carried judgment like a stone. He rode away. By morning, the story had spread like the storm itself. Living at his ranch, wrapped around each other in the rain, she went from the altar straight to his bed. Anna found James in the barn that evening. "The town thinks I'm your mistress. I won't destroy your reputation, James. I have to leave." He turned, his face hardening. "Where will you go?" "I don't know. But I'm leaving on my terms. Not theirs." James looked at her for a long time, then nodded slowly. "Mrs. Harper. A quarter-mile south. She's a widow, and she doesn't care what this town thinks about anything. I don't have money for rent. Let me worry about that." "No. I won't be. It's not charity, Anna. It's me wanting you to be safe." The next morning, Anna moved her trunk to the widow's small house. Mrs. Harper met her at the door with eyes that had seen enough of life to stop judging it. "I've seen worse sins than rain, child. Come in." The room was smaller than the one at the ranch, but as Anna lay in the narrow bed that night, she realized something had shifted. She had left her father's house because she had nowhere else to go. She had left James's ranch because she chose to. She was finally taking up the exact amount of space she needed. The boycott started quietly. First, it was the standing orders for Sunday rolls being canceled. Then, the women at the general store began crossing the street when they saw Anna coming. By Friday, her bakery was empty. The smell of fresh sourdough filled a room with no customers. She was 3 days from closing for good when James Dalton walked in. "I need 10 loaves, he said, setting coin on the counter. "And whatever biscuits you've got." "You don't need 10 loaves, James. My ranch hands eat. Believe me, I need them." He paused, leaning against the counter. "I've also got cattle routes running into the city twice a week. I pass through Ridgewater and Cedar Falls. Both towns have stores that need baked goods. You bake. I drive. Everybody eats." Anna wanted to argue, wanted to say she didn't need saving. But she also needed to pay Mrs. Harper. "Fine. But I'm paying you for the delivery." "We'll discuss it," he said. They never did. Within a month, Anna was baking before dawn and running out of bread by noon. She wasn't baking for Redemption Creek anymore. She was baking for strangers 30 miles away who tasted her skill and didn't care what she weighed. One evening, watching him load the wagon, she said, "I should learn to make the deliveries myself. Then I'll teach you." The lessons started the next afternoon. The wagon bench was narrow, James's shoulder pressed against hers, smelling of leather and sage. "Easier," he said, his hands covering hers on the reins to adjust the tension. "You're choking the leather. Loosen your grip, the horses can feel your fear." She loosened. The horses steadied. His hand stayed a second too long, his calloused fingers warm against hers. The lessons took a week, then two, stretching longer than they needed to because neither wanted to move away. Then Edwin returned. "So the rumors are true." Edwin's voice cut across the yard. Anna straightened. "What do you want?" "I heard your family disowned you. That you're living in shame with him." He gestured at James. "I'm living in a widow's boarding house. Alone." "That's not what people say." "People say a lot of things. Most of them are lies." Edwin took a step closer. His eyes moved over her the way they had at the wedding. Cataloging. Judging. "You're already acting like his mistress. You might as well make it official." He smiled. Thin and cold. "Come live with me instead. I'm richer. I can give you more than a dirt-poor rancher." Anna's hand moved before her mind caught up. The slap cracked across the quiet road like a gunshot. Edwin's head rocked sideways. "Get off this road," James said, his voice quiet and deadly as he stepped down from the wagon. He didn't touch Edwin. He just stood like a wall of muscle between them. "While you still can." Edwin looked at the red print on his cheek, then at James. He turned his horse and rode toward town without another word. Anna was shaking, not from fear, but from a sudden, sharp sense of power. That evening, Mrs. Harper met her at the door with a kind, sad expression. "I need to tell you something, child. Your rent? It's been paid. For the next 3 months. James Dawson's been coming by every week, asking me not to say a word." Anna went still. The city connections, the extra milk, the rent, all of it. She walked to James's ranch in the dark. She found him in the barn, checking the horses. "Why?" she asked. "The rent, the lessons, the deliveries. Why?" He turned to face her. "Because you deserved a chance that didn't come with conditions. Everyone else wants you to change, to be smaller, to disappear. I don't want you smaller, Anna. I want you here." "Why?" she whispered, stepping closer. "Because the first time I saw you, you were running from yourself in the heat. You apologized for existing. And I wanted to find everyone who'd ever made you feel that way and make them answer for it." He reached out, taking her hand. "You're not too much, Anna. You never were." "I'm afraid," she whispered, "that you'll change your mind. That one day you'll look at me the way Edwin did." "I won't. I've been looking at you for months, and all I keep seeing is someone I never want to look away from." The barn was quiet, the air thick with the scent of hay and unspoken promises. Anna reached for him, finally understanding that she didn't have to shrink to be loved. "James," she started, "I think I'm—" She didn't finish. Because she didn't know that back in town, Edwin was already meeting with her father and the doctor, a pair of commitment papers resting on the table between them. Edwin whispered, and the town listened. He went to Mr. Blackwell first. Then the Reverend. Then, when the ground was soft enough, he went to Anna's father. "Your daughter is living in sin. Unstable, erratic. She cut her own hair. She refused a respectable marriage. She attacked me in public." He let the words drip slow, like poison in a well. "She's gone mad, Henry. And she's making your family a laughingstock." Anna's father didn't need much convincing. The humiliation had been eating him alive for weeks. At the general store, men stopped talking when he walked in. At the feed lot, a business partner turned his back. On the street, someone crossed to the other side when they saw him coming. And at church, the worst, he heard the whisper from 2 rows back, clear as Sunday bells, "Can't even control his own daughter. They say she went from the altar straight to that rancher's bed." He went to Dr. Morrison on a Wednesday. "I want commitment papers." The doctor hesitated. "Henry, that's a serious. She's a danger to herself. Cut her hair off. Now she's living with a man she isn't married to and assaulting people in broad daylight." He pushed a pen across the desk. "Sign the papers." Dr. Morrison signed. They came at dawn. Anna was in Mrs. Harper's kitchen, kneading dough by lamplight, when the knock came. Mrs. Harper answered and her face went pale. Anna's father stood on the porch. Behind him, Dr. Morrison. Behind them both, a black carriage with barred windows, the kind they used to transport patients to the state asylum in Briarcliff. "Anna." Her father's voice was stiff, rehearsed. "You need to come with us." She wiped flour on her apron and walked to the door. She saw the carriage. She saw the bars. Her legs nearly gave out. "Your father has signed commitment papers," Dr. Morrison said. He wouldn't meet her eyes. "Under territorial law, he has full authority. You're to come with us for evaluation and treatment." "Treatment for what?" Her voice shook. "You've been declared morally unfit. You cut your hair. You were rejected at your wedding. You're living in sin with an unmarried man." Dr. Morrison's voice was clinical. "These are symptoms of mental instability." "I'm not insane. I'm a baker," she cried. "I bake bread. I pay my rent. Anna." Her father stepped forward. His voice dropped low, the private voice, the one the neighbors wouldn't hear. "If you won't be a wife, you'll be a patient. At least then I can say you're sick instead of shameful. People are saying you landed directly in that rancher's bed the night you were rejected. You've humiliated me for the last time." The words hit her like a physical blow. Sick instead of shameful. That was the choice he was offering. Asylum or obedience. Cage or disappearance. "You did this," she whispered. "You'd rather lock me away than admit your daughter is fine the way she is." "You are not fine." His face contorted. "You ruined your reputation over a rancher who will never marry you. He showed you dreams and you swallowed them whole like a fool. Now get in the carriage." Dr. Morrison reached for her arm, and the men behind him stepped forward to seize her. "Don't touch me." Anna struggled as they dragged her off the porch toward the barred door. The sound of hooves tore up the road. The kind of riding that tears up the earth. James Dalton came around the bend at full gallop, dust flying behind him. And he wasn't alone. Judge Calloway rode beside him, gray-bearded, black coat, carrying a leather case. James swung down before his horse had fully stopped. He was between Anna and the carriage before anyone could speak. "She's not going anywhere." Her father's jaw clenched. "You have no authority here, Dalton. I'm her father. This is legal." A husband's authority supersedes a father's. "She's not married." James turned to Anna. His chest was heaving from the ride. His eyes were steady. He held out a folded document. A marriage license. Already prepared. Judge Calloway stood behind him with a Bible in his hand. "If you sign this," James said, "I become your next of kin. Your father loses the legal power to commit you. I will never use that authority against you. I will never hold it over you. But right now, it's the only shield I can give you." Anna looked at the marriage license. At the asylum carriage with its barred windows. At her father's rigid face. At Dr. Morrison's guilty eyes. Then she looked at James. She turned back to her father. Her voice was shaking, but her eyes were dry. "You wanted to sell me to a man who measured my worth in pounds. When that failed, you tried to lock me in a cage. Now watch me choose the man you couldn't control." She took the pen from the judge's hand. She signed. James signed beside her. The judge read the words. Mrs. Harper stood on the porch in her nightgown as witness, arms crossed, chin high. The dawn was just breaking, pale gold lights spilling over the mountains, touching the roof of the widow's house, the porch where Anna stood in her flour-dusted apron with her short hair and her steady hand. "I do," she said. James took the commitment papers from Dr. Morrison's hands. Slowly, deliberately, he looked the doctor in the eye, then he tore them in half. And then in half again. He let the pieces fall in the dirt. "She's my wife. You have no authority here." Her father stared at the torn paper on the ground. At his daughter. At the ring James was sliding onto her flour-dusted finger, a simple band, warm from being carried in his pocket. "This isn't over," her father said. "Yes it is," Anna said. He left. The doctor followed. The black carriage rolled away empty. Word spread through town the way it always did. Fast, distorted, unstoppable. By noon, half of Redemption Creek had heard. By afternoon, people were gathered on the street, watching, whispering. Edwin Prescott stood on the boardwalk outside the saloon, watching from a distance. The plan he'd set in motion, the whispers, the papers, the carriage, had crumbled in a dirt yard at dawn. Anna saw him as she climbed onto the wagon that afternoon. She looked directly at him. He looked away first. She was making the Tuesday delivery to Ridgewater. The wagon was loaded with bread and biscuits and 3 honey cakes for the hotel. She wore a simple dress, her short hair tucked behind her ears, James's ring on her left hand. She held the reins herself. James sat beside her. Not in front. Not above. Beside. "Ready?" he asked. She looked at him. This man who had given her water when she was face down in the dirt. Who had stood up in a church full of cowards. Who had driven her bred to cities and taught her to hold the reins and paid her rent in secret and torn up the papers that would have caged her. Who had married her not to own her, but to set her free. "Ready," she said. She flicked the reins. The horses moved. The wagon rolled forward onto the open road. Behind her, Redemption Creek shrank in the distance. Its whispers, its judgments, its scales and measuring eyes growing smaller with every turn of the wheels. Ahead, the road stretched out wide and long, and the morning sun was warm on her face. She wasn't small enough for Edwin Prescott. She wasn't obedient enough for her father. She wasn't quiet enough for this town. But she was exactly enough for the man sitting beside her, who had never once asked her to be less. And for the first time in her life, she was enough for herself.
Thank you for watching Ironwood Narrative!
Thank you for watching Ironwood Narratives.